open session. We have already established a quorum. So at this point, I need a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? And now I need the motion for approval of the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second. Motion second. All in favor? Motion carried. Communications.
Yes, we do have one. Dr. Odinger, a huge thank you goes out to you and your outstanding staff and students for all you did to help us honor Chief Singer. Your facilities were perfect and everyone went above and beyond to accommodate us. Your efforts will not be forgotten. Thank you again, the Missouri Law Enforcement Funeral Assistant Team. So that's it.
Any public comment?
There are no requests for comment.
Okay, financial update.
Good evening, everybody. Finance report for this month is letters of intent for our non-certified employees have been distributed. Extra duty contracts for year-round and fall and winter activities are being distributed to our employees now. In April, the district invested in a fourth CD with the Bank of Odessa. This CD is on a 12-month term with the interest rate of 5.25%. As this one matures, we have the option to continue the CD or not. Currently, the district has 5 CDs at staggered points of maturity. The finance department completed the ESSER data collection for year 4 and submitted it to the state last month. The data collection includes previous expenditures under these grants, as well as current plans for spending the remaining amount of the grant funds. The district is finishing up the details for the current year expenditures and will be drawing down the remaining funds available for this grant. This will be the final year for the grant revenues. The senior account refunds will be issued between the May and June board meetings. The list of all checks cut will be included in the June board packet. That's it for this month.
Thanks, Gail.
Thank you.
Finance update.
Sure, I'll just kind of touch on some of the bigger items you might see going on. So in addition to getting the yard mowed between rains, a few bigger things Mike's had going on. Has a company come in, evaluate our lighting, looking at some LED options perhaps, and they do some cost savings analysis. So moving forward, looking at some of those items. Been, if you've seen some equipment out here, that's looking toward the walking track down here to the south. So that'll be coming again when it stops raining. I've had quite a few companies in here recently. Got to replace a kitchen grease trap, getting some flooring bids for the kitchen here at the high school too, looking at some epoxy to make some repairs there. KC Pier, again, they'll be here doing the pier work on central office. I'll be fixing sewer line repair out by the child care center. So if you see a hole out there in the next month or so, that's what's going on out there. And then again, some summer items, looking at exterior lighting for all of the buildings and updating those. And then a rooftop unit at the middle school. If you have choir or band students, you might have heard that it's hot in there, but we're working on that. And then some updates out in the ag building to accommodate new instructors out there this summer as well. Attaching a doorway that is there, but uncovering the doorway so the additional classroom also goes into the shop. This summer, got a few things going on.
Roger, the upper elementary parking lot, will that have to be like a bond issue or?
So for a full replacement, that would be, yes, when there's a larger chunk of money available, but we're looking at doing some patching. They've done some pothole repair. There's obviously some more, and then there's some pretty sized cracks too. But we've had our eye on that to get bid for future summer. Yeah.
Has that been overlaid at all, or is that the original?
Pretty sure it's original. I know my first year they were doing just had done some chip and seal and some overlay, but that was not included on it. That was 8 years ago, so it was still fairly new at that time. So nothing's been done to it other than crack sealing and things like that. We usually run a machine and crack seal in the summertime. So
any idea on the track that they're doing? We're gonna get started on that soon? Or you know when like they're planning on having that completed by
On,
the school year? The one over here, they're already mobilized.
oh, anytime now, yeah. Once they get started, it won't take long. I mean, it's gonna be essentially a 6-foot wide, nice path, like under the trees and down along the road and on the far east end, just for our teachers and the community to use. Once they get going on, it won't take long. They anticipate it being done by now, but then we're trying to avoid all the activities out there and then start raining. So
And then it'll be asphalt.
no, it'll be gravel.
It'll be
Yeah,
gravel.
it'll be like a chat compacted down.
Roger, any other questions on maintenance for Roger? Moving on, academic focus.
Armstrong, Ms. Russell.
Right. So we chose some very smart cookies to bring to you guys tonight, and we're going to recognize them first for some outstanding achievement, and then we're going to have them show you a little bit of what they've been doing. All right. So I'm going to let Katie talk about a couple of things. The students we brought here, when I say your name, stand up and kind of wave, and then we'll all come up here. We have Hadley Dorsey, 2nd grade student. Reese Russo, a 1st grade student. Kylie Schwartz, a kindergarten student. Emily Reynolds, a 1st grade student. And Gideon Sheldon, a 2nd grade student. And we'll have them come stand up here in just a second as we start to recognize. We chose some iReady data. We're smack dab in the middle of the end of the year diagnostic. And when we were looking at some of the things, these guys did some super, super work. And so we wanted to recognize them for a couple of things. So Ms. Russell, go ahead.
So what we decided to focus on was growth. So we weren't necessarily looking for, the person who has the highest reading score, anything like that. We just wanted to know, oh my gosh, who has grown? And so we're going to start with Kylie. So a typical growth for Kylie would have been 85%. Kylie actually grew 169% in reading. So setting the bar pretty high, 110% would be a typical growth for Reese. However, she grew 186%. All right, so Emmy, typical growth would have been 91. Emmy grew 196%. Okay, so these next two are 2 2nd graders, both in Miss G's class, 2nd grade class. Let's see, Gideon Sheldon grew 228%. Hadley Dorsey grew 323%.
Not only do we look at that, that's the typical growth number. We also look at their stretch growth as administrators, and each one of these students also met their stretch growth goal. So their stretch growth is that goal that's set. If they were below grade level, this would get them, if they attained their stretch growth target number over multiple years, they're projected to be at grade level in a couple of years. So all of them also met stretch growth. Some of them didn't have very far to go to meet stretch growth because they were already being some high achievers, and some of them did some great things. One of the other things we also looked at with this to kind of pick these students is their personal learning path. And they're going to come show you their personal learning path in a minute. But I wanted to share a couple of things. As of yesterday, Emmy Reynolds had completed 43 assignments in her personal learning path, and she had passed all 43. All right. Reese Russo had completed 50 assignments on her personal learning path, and she had passed all 50. Gideon Sheldon had completed 70 assignments in his learning path and had passed 69 out of the 70. Hadley had completed 22 assignments in her personal learning path, and she had passed 21 of them. And Miss Hadley had completed 54 of her assignments on her personal learning, and had passed 52 of them. So we take a look at that learning path as something that they do every day, either reading or math for 10 to 15 minutes. We try to get 30 to 49 minutes per week on the learning path. And so, first off, we got some certificates for those guys. Why don't you hand out their certificates for them? And then we'll get their, or do you want to wait? Okay, let's let them, we're going to have them come out to you guys now. I think they've all completed their ELA diagnostic, but they're going to get on their learning path and kind of show you what they do day to day. Come here, Hadley.
Okay.
Hadley. Come here, Hadley. Come right here.
If you want a chair, we can get rudders away.
She's already logged in, right? You're gonna go. You're gonna get on.
Yeah, show us what you do.
You're gonna have to show. You want to do reading or math? All right. You want to go back? You want to do reading and you did? All right, go ahead and start it and kind of show them what it looks like. Go ahead. Just go through a few of the questions.
I would have gotten very excited.
We got that for you.
So it gives you a word, which you have to find another word to match that. Is that right?
This sentence basically that tells you what the definition of the word is. How does it help? What words help you figure out what that word is?
Yeah, go do it.
She's confused.
She's just fired off.
Yeah, I do. I read every day. Well, she's very intelligent.
Good job.
Are you ready for the big challenge?
This one you've done.
You did it. You finished the homework.
Good job.
Yeah, nice work.
I can tell here, hopefully you're smarter than that.
So we wanted to recognize these students. So that's just a little taste of what they were doing daily. I think did everybody pick reading or did you pick math?
I did
Did
not.
you pick math too? Yeah, we had a couple pick math. But that's kind of what I-READY, it puts them on a learning path. It's adaptive, so it takes them up or down based on their correct answers. It'll keep advancing them. If they get enough wrong, it'll keep them where they're at. It may even give them another assignment that's around a certain concept. If they miss too many, if students miss too many, it'll shut that domain off. It'll shut that section off. A classroom teacher would have to do some work with the kiddo, and then they can turn it back on. But I don't think these kiddos have a problem with that. They're getting them all right. They're passing them all. So we wanted to recognize these students with their certificate, though. So Ms. Russell, you got the certificates there. These say incredible growth in reading.
You guys have any questions for them? We talked about, we had a bunch of conversations today about it.
You guys,
Hasn't-
do you look forward to going to school so you can do this? You guys do this first thing, right, when you get in the classroom? Is that what I understood, or? is it like 40-some minutes a week?
Some classes do it first thing during intervention time.
Okay.
Some teachers put it as part of one of their rotations that they
Oh,
have
okay.
when they're doing small group stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll do one or the other.
Good stuff.
So those are do you guys like doing it on the computer, or do you like doing like paper and pen or pencil? Is it more fun on the computer to do it that way? It is. I think so too.
So it also offers little brain breaks, right? What's your favorite little brain break thing that it does, Gideon? What is it called? Pass spinners?
Yeah.
All right, pass spinners. What's another one? Emmy?
It's called a cat game, but I can't remember what. Yeah.
Cat stacker? Well, yeah, they're just stacking cats.
So it's like
It's a mindless, brainless activity. It's just so supposed to be fun, but it does offer them some brain breaks in the middle of all their stuff that they're doing. So, but these guys, I think they deserve another round of applause. Good job, fellas. Good job, guys. Thank you very much.
Mr. Armstrong, the platform that they're using, that is purchased with R-VII? Is that what you
That
were
is
saying?
part of I-READY. So
Okay.
once they take their diagnostic test, it places them on their path.
Okay.
So they get placed on their path at the beginning of the year, right? Teachers have the capability to adjust it as they want to as well. So if they feel like it's not going fast enough for a kid, they can move them past some assignments and set them ahead. If they want to give the kiddo a certain assignment, let's say they're going to study vowel consonant E words, right? And they want every kid to do the vowel consonant E assignment, whether they've passed it or not. They can assign that assignment to all the kids, or one kid or two kids, and then when they log in, they have to go to that one first, and then they can go to the other stuff. So it's a pretty neat program. The data that it provides us is pretty incredible as well. Just to see that growth is like that's the crazy part. So I mean, to see kids that start out at one level and have grown 200 and something% in a year on this stuff is crazy. So yeah. Yeah.
And the parents that brought them in, thanks for bringing them in.
Absolutely.
That kind of achievement is to know them too, so thank you.
We did have one student that couldn't be with us tonight, Penny Hetherington, another kindergarten student in Miss Burrow's class, couldn't make it tonight, but she's shown a tremendous amount of growth as well. And I just wanted to make sure we said her name. So
Awesome.
Good job, guys.
Yeah,
thank
good
you
stuff.
guys.
Make sure you're not getting off this. It's like work doing that.
I'm gonna look it up.
He's probably got.
It's minus down.
Oh.
It could be nobody's here.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Good recognition.
Oh, I'm sorry, recognition. I'm checking off too fast.
No,
Recognition, good.
Yep, there's a couple things that I definitely want to get recognized. The High School Student Council was awarded the Missouri Association of Student Council Gold Award in recognition of their involvement at the local level and involvement with the Trail West District Council. Our student councils, you've seen them a lot. They're involved with a lot of different things, both within the school and in the community, always trying to help out. Ms. Salee has done a very good job for students. And I just want to make sure that they get that recognition. And there's a plaque that they'll get to hang for that as well. So. And then for the next one, I'll turn it over to Ms. Ray.
Well, thank you for having me. We were able to present this award earlier, but we just wanted to make sure that you guys were able to know about it. So Dr. McLean, if you'll come up. The Central Missouri School Counselors Association is a group of counselors across this central part of the region. And we have representatives who kind of speak on our behalf for things that are facing school counselors. They will either lobby to different organizations or they represent us in the greater MSCA group. But each year we have the ability to nominate people for a couple awards. And I this year nominated and he received the Central Missouri School Counselors Association School Counselor Advocate of the Year. I nominated Dr. McLean for that, so present him with his second plaque. But I did that because Dr. McLean understands the unique role that we play here as school counselors, especially at a school our size. The school counseling role looks so different at a very, very small class 1-2 school than it looks at a class 5 or 6 school. So we're kind of right there in the middle, so we do kind of a combination of all of it. So his work with us as an administrator in our building really helped kind of forge that relationship and gave him an opportunity to see what it is that we do and what support we can provide our admin and then what we need back for them. So when he made that transition over to central office, he really carried that with him and he made school counselors a priority. He made sure that we were able to attend as a whole group if we wanted to and were able to the Missouri School Counselors Association School Counselor Conference. It's a vital conference for us to attend where we get great ideas and just brainstorming with other counselors who are, kind of facing the same situations and students and hardships and stuff that we all are. So we were just very grateful that we were all able to go to that because in past years, only one of us was able to go. So once every 6 years you got to go. And then when you came back, the idea was that you would share with your teammates, but I, as a high school counselor, cannot relate as well to an elementary person. So when I'm there trying to gather information, I don't know if it's the right information. So he was a huge advocate in making sure that we were all able to attend that, worked with our building administrators to make sure that we had funds available. So we very much appreciate that. He's also organizes a monthly meeting with us so that way we can kind of stay on top of the data and things that we have to track and the way that we can kind of support his office and just anything that we have going on. So we just really appreciate him. We are sad to see him go, but we are glad that he was able to get some recognition. So thank you.
They do so much, and then all they do is like during counselor week is they praise everybody else. So it truly is, and Ashley's led the charge, and we've had some new faces in the counseling department here in Odessa that it was important to get them all together because they need to trust one another to solve big time problems. Because the one end of the spectrum that they've worked with students in crisis all the way to student information systems, it never ends what they have to do. It's pretty complex. So thank you. They always pay it forward. That's just very nice of you, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, we do have the May Making a Difference Award. As you recall, we do individual awards throughout the year, and then in May we recognize a group. And this month, they weren't able to be here, but we did award the group award to the District Title I instructors. We have 2 at Upper and 3 at Macquarie, and we did recognize them in their buildings in front of their staff last week. But I wanted to recognize them here as well. At Macquarie, Gail Bainbridge, Jeff Wood, and Jackie Bochatzer, and at Upper, Erica Cusick and Claire Carson. And just a few things that staff members, there were numerous recommendations for both groups. Amazing individuals that encompass all that you would expect from elementary teachers. They're kind, passionate, selfless, and giving to everyone. They're simply amazing, always uplifting, patient, and encouraging to students. They're always collaborating with each other and finding new ways to help students. They're always willing to provide resources and knowledges to help the teachers. They're great at being flexible and always willing to help out in anything the building needs. And the staff as a whole does a great job of making a difference every day. So to those 5 individuals, we appreciate everything that they do. So. All right.
And now we are to the superintendent's report.
Yeah, several things I want to just briefly touch on. The administrative reports are in your packet if you have any questions. A few things coming up in the year. We have kindergarten graduation on Thursday. Mr. Armstrong told me to block off Monday because that's our makeup day for rain. I'm saying it won't rain. He says it will. So our makeup kindergarten graduation is scheduled for Monday if we need that. But planning for this Thursday. Last day of school is next Thursday, the 29th, and then summer school will start. I'm sorry, last day of school is the 23rd. Summer school will then start on the 29th and conclude on June 26th. Long-range planning data collection. We've been working with Excellence K-12 to get that survey tool completed and had a conversation with Mr. Noble today, and they are still on track to start that phone survey starting in the fall, September timeframe, after we get past August. Legislatively, pretty busy at the end of the session. The Senate and House have passed the budget. Now it's waiting on the governor's signature for 24-25. A few things that directly relate to education: fully funding the state formula, continuing to fully fund transportation, fund the baseline teacher salary grant to set the base salary at $40,000 as a minimum for any school that is not at that level. That's assistance for them. And continue the flat funding of the Career Ladder program. So that will continue with next year's budget as well. Senate Bill 721, he did sign that last week, passed and signed. A few highlights of that: it expands vouchers statewide, the expansion of charter schools into Boone County as well. A change in the weighted ADA calculation. Previously, that was all based on attendance. That will now include enrollment as part of that calculation. Starting with the 26-27 school year, a district must have 169 days unless they have adopted a 4-day school week by the Board of Education. If a district does have 169 days, they will receive a 1% increase in state aid for 2026 and a 2% increase for 2027. Minimum teacher salary with the grant support, $40,000 minimum teacher salary for a first-year teacher, $46,000 for teachers with a master's degree and 10 years experience. That starts with the 25-26 school year, both of which we already meet those pay levels. It does include increases of $1,000 to each of these minimums for the next 2 years, and then the increase is based upon inflation. It includes teacher retention and recruitment, which is a creation of a scholarship program to increase education students into the the industry. Included some changes to retirement to allow employees to earn 50% or more based on the 550 rule for retirees coming back to work in half-time positions. And there was some changes to proposed changes to career ladder that would allow teachers some ability to receive compensation during the work time. Right now, everything has to be outside of the workday schedule, but the language will allow some of that to happen within the workday schedule. So quite a bit there to digest, and we'll work through those and get all those things put in place so we're in alignment with all those things.
Can you speak, oh, go ahead.
No, ma'am, go ahead.
Can you speak to kindergarten screening and what you expect enrollment to be for that class?
Yeah, right now we kind of look at current kindergarten as a bubble year. We're headed back down. What are you at right now?
155
Is what we're
currently sitting at 191 in kindergarten. I think we screened or will screen 155. So that usually includes, another 10 that we don't know about, 10 to 12 that will happen, and that'll just show up in the fall that haven't been screened. So I'm looking at like 160, thinking right around here.
Sir,
what's the funding mechanism for the 1% and 2% increase for compliance with, as well as the funding mechanism for the scholarships? Is that the 80 million that they had talked about?
yes. As far as the vouchers, yeah. So that's coming out of the general education fund for, it would be the same money that supports the foundation formula.
Sure. And student adequacy target. So
Which is going up, so that will help things, but that will take an additional 120 million to fund at the increase across the board.
So the allocations have increased without actually appropriating.
Well,
do you anticipate? Here's my question: do you anticipating them prorating the formula?
They say they're not going to.
I understand that. They say that every year.
And they haven't for the last couple of years, but we were able to see some record revenues over the last couple of years. It was largely supported by federal dollars passed down through COVID. Same thing that we've been able to do here.
Right.
With that money no longer being there and being available, hopefully they have the revenue to support it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So beyond the potential impact of funding those things, for the Augusta School District, is there anything that concerns you with the material items that are in that?
The district, when we knew we were getting this money 3 years ago, we were very intentional to say, build up that fund balance to support the things we put in place until revenues can catch up. We're going to talk about the FY25 budget. It's, as I told you previously, it's going to be a deficit. We're planning on that to be a deficit for next year. But the intention behind that was everything that we put in place to be able to sustain it because it's what's best for kids. So, I don't have a magic 8-ball to say exactly what the state revenues are going to do, but if state revenues were to stay high, I don't see any issues with them being able to fully support the things that they've committed to.
I agree with Brad. I don't know if they passed, on one hand, they added all this bill, this education, this money that they're wanting to allocate. But on the other hand, they're talking about cutting taxes. They really don't go together. And in the years I've been on this board, when this has happened, we've taken a cut in transportation, or they've redone the formula so that they reworked it so that we could say we're meeting 100%, but we really weren't. So I'd say, you know, we all pretty much got a good idea what's going to happen in the next few years. I think we're in a good place here, so we can battle through it. But I mean, where are you going to come up with that kind of money to do this?
Like I said, kudos to, if you look at the fund balances of Odessa R-VII, they look very high. But I think it's strong strategic financial planning for the road ahead.
Sure.
So. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on to our discussion item this evening.
Yeah, so, Dr. Fagan on the school resource officer.
Yeah, so we have Officer Bell with us this evening. So the Odessa Police Department is looking at adding critical incident stress management therapy K9.
Yes, which is pretty much just a fancy way of saying a therapy dog for all, not just a therapy dog for one. I'm not very good with technology, so if I break this, I apologize.
We'll blame it on Roger.
Yeah, there we go. He gave me the technology. So like I said, CIS MT dogs, it's a fancy way of saying a therapy dog for all, not just one. It is going to be implemented in the middle school. That's where I'm implemented. That's kind of my little niche at the moment. They've found that these stress dogs are very, very good at being able to attract themselves to the magnetic field that our bodies give off with stress, and they can go in and they can de-escalate that subject. So instances of uses, trauma calls, public safety, military and veteran, family and public relations. I won't read all that off to you, but just some of the things that we do. It will be implemented in the community as well. So if we have, say, a veteran suicide, I can go and comfort those families. If we have a child suicide, I can go comfort those families. If we have a domestic violence situation that has some of our kids in it, I can go and help those families. We're going to reach out to the agencies around us because, as you guys know, the Odessa School District isn't just the Odessa town. That's my jurisdiction, but we also work very closely with the county, state, city, anybody that has our students in it. If they have an incident like that this dog would be good for, I would also be deployed out to help with those instances also. They're also very good for line of duty. EMS, police officers, firefighters, we see some pretty traumatic things. These dogs have been shown to be able to help with some of our retention. If we have something that we can kind of let our stress and our guard down with before we go home, it helps with our family life too. Where do we get the dog? This is Janine Baguette. I've been in contact with her since probably October and November. She is the owner and founder of Canines for Freedom and Independence. She is a canine handler, an Air Force combat medic vet, and she runs this program pretty much by herself. She trains these dogs for anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on how well the dog adjusts, and then she'll come out and she'll bond them to us. This is a pretty good program from what I've found. A lot of the therapy programs wanted to bond the dog to just one person and not a community. So this is a really, really good program to go through to be able to have a community canine and not just a person canine. Costs nothing to the school. That's the greatest part for you guys. It was absolutely no cost to you guys. It's completely grant funded and donation funded through communities and grants that we've gotten. We've gotten some grants already, I believe, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong. And donations, we're going to go through going to the Canines, which is a donation group that we went through whenever we did our golf tournament for Hawkeye, which is our apprehension canine. So this is one of my favorite quotes that I found over my months of research that I did. Dogs are soft and furry. The benefits of unconditional touch they offer cannot be replicated by any school staff. We have amazing counselors. We have amazing caseworkers. I work with them very closely day in and day out. But I have to say, I would rather hug a dog than a person some days. So, dogs in schools. So they're non-biased. I mean, you can absolutely look at a dog and say, you're absolutely ugly and I hate you, and that dog's still going to wag his tail and think, oh, you're the greatest thing ever. So dogs are awesome. They don't judge and they don't hold a grudge. So this is just some of the pause for intervention study. I put a big pointer to that one because it was my favorite one out of all these. The therapy dog promoted communication in a nonverbal student. The student wrote letters to the dog and eventually spoke to the dog. I feel like that is a huge thing. We have a lot of kids in our school district that do have some special needs, and they've shown that some of these dogs with these special need kids, just a couple minutes a day can actually help their growth too. Dogs with SRO study. This was a naval postgrad student. He went to 2 schools out of Colorado. He did a elementary and a middle school at one place and then went to a high school at another. These therapy dogs that he bonded with these SROs were therapy dogs for not out of the same place that we're getting our dog from, but a place kind of similar. They just didn't bond them with LEO, which is law enforcement officers. So thesis breakdown, I'll let you guys go through that a little bit. I won't read them to you, but these students that would never talk to somebody in a uniform like me, day in and day out, I have a lot more ruggage on than I do now. A lot of kids won't come up and talk to us. Either it's stigma that they have between us and their parents, or just stigma with the media that they have. They won't come up and talk to us, but the high school students would actually go up and talk to them. They had one student that was allergic to dogs, so she kind of stood back while the rest of her friends were there and actually engaged in conversation with the SRO. Middle school, chaotic classroom was calmed immediately. That was kind of the cool thing that I took out of it. We do have some chaotic classrooms from time to time, just because we do have some chaotic kids, but I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, if you walk into a classroom and they see some presence, they're going to quiet down pretty good. A lot of times, if you walk in and just say, hey, I'm here, they'll quiet down. You introduce a dog with that, and they know that they're going to get to pet the dog in a little bit once they kind of calm down and they're a little bit better. I feel like it would do a lot better with that. Students who avoid SRO interaction. We are at a very critical age with 6th to 8th graders of, hey, I'm either going to like law enforcement or I'm not. So being able to implement an SRO in there and then have one more thing to draw them into us would be an amazing opportunity for these kids to build up the trust between police and these kids. Elementary schools. Every elementary school age person loves dogs. I mean, it just is what it is. So a couple of these that I really, really liked. I cannot express how much engagement I received having the dog versus if I were alone. I was able to speak to many more students and staff due to the obvious reason of simply having the dog with me. This SRO was approached 10 times more with a dog than he was by himself. He actually learned of some crime issues that were happening inside the school because people would actually word vomit whenever they were petting the dog because they had the distraction of the furry canine. The other one I really like is absolutely, I have multiple kids come up to me who haven't spoken to me in 3 years. Multiple kids who have received citations from me were speaking with me as if they engaged with the dog. Some kids with autism who have never spoken to me came up and the dog. What was surprising was the kids did not overstay their welcome. They engaged with the dog and I left in a timely manner so the other kids could engage with the dog. That's one thing that I really don't want to go into the school to do is be an extra distraction. So that's kind of where the handling is going to come in the training. They're going to be able to specialize me to where it's not a distraction, it's a reward and more of a therapy than just, hey, we get to go pet a dog. These are some of the canines. The one down there in the jacket, that is Barry. He's from Michigan. They have them anywhere from Ohio, Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky. We actually have some up as close as Green Valley, Kansas City, Overland Park to us. And there's some in Texas too. But we're hoping to implement it within, if we can't hit the August beginning of the year deadline, we're going to try and hit Christmas break. We still have a couple more funding things that we have to go through. But that's pretty much the majority of the deal. Does anybody have any questions? I talk fast when I'm in front of people. I'm sorry.
So I know like Hawkeye stay with Officer Zarda.
Yep.
Will it stay with you?
Yep. She'll stay with me. He or she will stay with me. The cool thing about the dog is it's a therapy dog only, whereas Hawkeye would be apprehension. This dog is simply therapy. We're going to go with a floppy ear dog just because study shows that floppy ear dogs with police officers are a little more open, as in the pointy dog, pointy-eared shepherds, Malaways, that kind of thing. If you get a lab or some kind of hound mix, they like the floppy ears. They're more inviting. So, yeah, she or he will stay with me. It'll be my dog. If for some reason I'm not available, we might have a secondary handler that will have that dog. and they can go out with them. So.
We had one at Proctor Elementary, her name was Millie,
Mm-hmm.
and she sensed stress and would lick you.
Mm-hmm. They have a very good way of grounding you.
And the crazy thing is, if you want to pet them, I wanted to pet her. But every time I reached my hand out, she would lick my hand. Stressed or something, I don't know. But it was, I'm going to tell you, the change that it made at Proctor Elementary was clearly observable.
So like with the dog, say you have to go to the high school,
Mhm.
would then the SRO at the high school go to the middle school to take their spot, and then you would come here with the dog? Is that kind of, or would the
It
dog
would
be
be-
interchangeable between the different SROs?
No, I do with the dog all the time. So it would be a case by case basis. If, say, I go to the high school and Greg Daniel has a better rapport with that student than me coming in, I would just be the kind of support person, and one of my command staff would fill in at the middle school.
I see.
So we would make sure everything was covered. The first year is going to be a learning curve. We'll get the wheel greased, but yeah, we're not going to leave any of the schools unprotected.
Good stuff.
So.
Well, I wasn't implying that. I just didn't know how it worked.
Yeah. No, we'll have a good rotation going.
Good stuff.
I'm so excited that it's going to be at the middle school. Kendra, just seeing your reports throughout the year of the issues that you're facing there, I think it's going to be the perfect fit of any of the schools that it could be at. So I'm excited to hopefully have, increased morale and behavior.
Yeah, that's kind of the hope there.
If you guys ever want to go out of town, you just.
There you go. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'm gonna give this back before I break it. I did pretty good
Way to
about
the
it.
classroom, stick around the admin office all day.
That was one of the things, I might have to go over and visit the admin from time to time and help relieve their stress. So, all right, thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay. Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, the CSIP.
Yeah, Dr. McClain.
She did so well. She just did really well. Hey, good evening. So, our CSIP stands for Continuous School Improvement Plan. We had a review team this year, and they met 3 times this spring semester. The CSIP is typically referred to as the district's strategic plan. Approximately 23 stakeholders reviewed the 4 priority areas set forth in our strategic plan. Each priority area has multiple SMART goals with provided action items that have been identified. Each measurable action item has been chosen with the intent to serve as a stepping stone on the path towards achieving the stated SMART goal. The CSIP review team was assigned to one of the 4 priority areas, and their task was to review the ongoing status of the district as it related to the listed action items and make suggestions moving forward from year 1 into year 2 of this continuous strategic plan for the district. The review team recommendations are provided for you in your package for this first reading. Additionally, the 2023 approved CSIP is provided to you as well. Additionally, I believe there are some process item steps to show kind of where those action items from 2023 have gone in the meantime.
If any questions come up between now and this board meeting, feel free to reach out, or we will ask for approval of this June board meeting.
Any questions, Dr. McClain? Thanks.
I appreciate all the time, everyone, Kelsey and, everybody else that was on here, all these parents and stuff donating their time to do this. So it's awesome that, you get that many people committed towards one common goal and you show up to the meetings and, do this. It's great. Appreciate them.
Absolutely. Okay. Steve,
I'm next.
career ladder update.
I'm going to invite Mrs. Morgan Schauber up. She's our PDC rep from the middle school. She's going to talk a little bit about our processes with this year's career ladder. And then we'll probably, if that's okay, just segue straight into the next year first reading as well.
Okay, I'll stand here so the people behind me can hear. He said you guys have this pulled up on your computers as well. So a lot of the numbers I'm going to go over you guys have in front of you, but I'll go over some extra stuff as well. So to start off, 100 staff members participated in Career Ladder during the 23-24 school year. So what that looked like, 13 were on stage 1. So stage 1 was they had to complete 2 years of teaching, and they would get $1,500. Stage 2, there were 14 participants, and they had to have completed 3 years of teaching, and then that stipend would be $3,000. And then 77, I thought that was a lot, that was great. We're on stage 3, so they have to complete 5 years of teaching, and that stipend is $5,000. So what that looks like, the total cost of all the staff is $446,500. Our district is responsible for 40% of that, and so that's $178,600. So you guys kind of see the numbers, but then you're also probably wondering, what does career ladder look like in this school? So I'm going to go over a few things. What this year, the 23-24 school year, 45% of the hours had to be student contact hours. So stage 1, for instance, was 22.5 hours. Stage 2 had to have 33.75 hours, and then stage 3 had to have 45 hours with students. And so those hours, typically people went into tutoring. A majority of the people did tutoring after school to get those hours. But also there were clubs, and the process to get like an after-school activity or club, they had to be approved by the PPC committee and also the building admin, because the building admins are going to be the ones really supervising that. So there's so many clubs all across the district, but I'm from OMS, so I can talk to the ones that were at OMS. The first club, and really I want to say like teachers got really creative with this. Because in the plan they had to say like, how is this good for the district? How is this tied to student achievement? How is this tied to the CSIP that we just created last year and improving? And so they had to have it. I mean, there are long documents of how's this pertaining to it. So one of the OMS clubs is Makerspace, and it's our STEM teacher and our teacher that teaches gifted students. And so it's really STEM based, and they did a lot of projects. So really you had a lot of your higher level kids that they don't need to go to tutoring after school. And so this made a great opportunity for them. And a lot of their projects, I mean, you could see, like one time they had those virtual reality glasses on, and they were controlling different things and working together. And seeing that was really awesome. Creative writing, they looked at lyrics from a lot of Taylor Swift songs. But honestly, I know that's like funny. But then like when they came up with this plan, like what they talked about, like how they looked at it from it directly tied to our standards, that they looked at all of this poetry and how it was improving their writing. And I mean, that group, I don't think there was any boys, but they were really into writing and how they can create their own writing. Harry Potter Club, I can speak to this club too, that you think of all your Harry Potter fans, but I had a student, and from my resource room, so I teach special education, so this means it's a lower student. Last year, she didn't have any club, so she went to Harry Potter after school, and it gave her a purpose. And then we were talking about themes of books, and she actually related to the theme of our book to the Harry Potter theme. So she learned about theme in the Harry Potter Club and brought it right into the classroom too. There's also Spanish Club, and then OMS Cares, which we came and presented to you guys, and tabletop games. So OMS Cares, tabletop games, those look a little bit different, and there's some clubs across the district that look a little bit different, but it's really supporting our kids socially and emotionally too. You saw how into it those girls were, and what they didn't share, and I wish they would have shared with you guys, that they said one of their favorite parts of that club is that they hung out with people that they wouldn't typically hang out with. They, during the school, they were being kind and trying to reach out to the people that they wouldn't always. And that same with the tabletop games. You have a lot of kids that they don't have a spot. They're not on a sports team. They don't necessarily need the tutoring. And sometimes in the school day you see them alone. But by golly, on Tuesday you pass by and they're all interacting with those games and getting so into it. And I mean, like one time I'm like, okay, this one kid, I was like, I need you to stay after just for a second. No, it's tabletop games. And so they really just have a purpose after school. So other district initiatives that and opportunities that we had was letters, curriculum, advancement nights, building leadership teams. For letters, I was actually, you could get 90 hours for your letters training, and I did participate in that. So that's something like I have my master's, I have my specialist. So letters, you could get college credit, but I didn't need to get college credit. But I had career ladder, so it kind of made that like drive to want to do that. And I will say I've learned so much from letters training. Just as a special education teacher, now I understand why my students with autism have really a hard time comprehending what they're reading, and I've been able to bring that up during IEP meetings. And so a lot of these district initiatives that we did through Career Ladder really improved our teachers and it improved our students. And I saw that at OMS, and I think all of our PDC teachers or reps would talk about that as well. You also could have professional development opportunities, but this year it was really focused and limited on what the district provided. So for instance, we just wanted it to be really driven to what we approved through the CSIP. So this year it was focusing on VIS training. Teachers could get hours through that, curriculum writing, letters, MTSS, SNAPS, Stanford, building thinking, and CPI. And then there were some other like online trainings that they could get a few hours for. So that was like Google training, Elastic, Clever, Promethean, because we all have those Promethean boards. And I had a teacher, and she just got a couple hours like that, and she's like, that training actually helped a lot. Like I was able to implement it in the next day during instruction. So additionally, during the school year, the PDC members really helped Dr. McLean this year in going through the teacher logs and working through that with him. So that's this year. And if you guys are okay, we'll transition right into this next year pending approval. So looking at the 24-25 school year in that career ladder plan, we Dave sent that to the PDC reps the other week, and we really went through it, and there was a lot of good discussions about what can change, what can stay the same to make it even better. So the big change that you guys will see is PDC, well, one thing that will stay the same, PDC is going to work to, with, next year would be Amanda, will work with Amanda in approving those hours. Mrs. Saxon, she created a great program, so like everybody's been working on trying to improve this. And so we have a better system on how to approve hours next year, of course, pending the approval. But a big change is instead of that 45% hours, that it will be 50%. So 50% of your required hours have to be student contact hours. And so that will look like the tutoring still, and then clubs. And we've been working with the administrators to go back through those clubs and really what is fit to the district initiative and the CSIP goals. Next year's plan includes also opening up opportunities. So this year we really, okay, only the PD that we say is provided. And next year we're looking at opening up to PD, like for instance, not everybody needs this one PD, and also some of the PD we offered this year, like Google training, you can only have that so many years. So we're opening it up to, if you have a really good PD that pertains to, like our STEM teacher, she found a really good thing that pertains to her. And so giving them the opportunity, and I think that's really great because we already have teachers that have been looking through PD. I mean, that's on their own time, not during the school day. They're looking for these different opportunities. How can they get hours and really build the district initiative? And so, like for instance, we had a library teacher. She'd already looked at things, and one was how to get increased student reading. And I thought that was a really great one because we do this great thing at the middle school, and it's called Lollapalooza. And if you read 250 or 2,500 pages, then you can go on this field trip. Well, every year that I've been there, you see a decrease in students. So her going to that PD, she said, I can go to this PD, they've already offered all these things, and then I'll bring it back to the ELA teachers. Like, how can we increase student reading within this district? And so those are just opportunities teachers are going out and looking for to count for career ladder. Another change includes a teacher completing yearly safety videos. So in the past, the safety videos that we've all had to complete at the beginning of the year could be counted towards career ladder. And next year we're saying no, that you already need to do that. We've already had to do that in the past, so you need to go above and beyond that. So that won't be counted this year. And like I said, the various clubs will be looked at by the building administrators for effectiveness and relevance. And let's see, the PDC reviewed the process of the logging hours and updating our practice using Create It, Career Ladder, Google Forms. So this year we had a Google form that you had to put it in, and then we had to go into Frontline. And sometimes, like, I don't know if there's just some mistakes, and it was like, well, these hours don't count this. And on Frontline, you couldn't see all your hours all at once. So you had to go month by month, and it was really tedious. But TS actually created a great document that now we all can see just that one page. And then it generates into this spreadsheet that's going to be a lot easier probably for you to give to Desi as well. Yeah, sorry. So that's all I have for the difference. So the big difference is that it's going to be 50% now, and the opening up to the PD opportunities that the teachers can give to us now. It's not, you have to have only the so many that we give you. Right.
I gotta say, I personally think that the creativeness that they are, coming up with to, like, I guess, meet the kids and their interests, and make it fun is really cool. I mean, it's like, I know they've got to follow the guidelines, they got to meet all the requirements, but the way that they get to that is the cool part, like you said, with the Harry Potter Club and everything. I mean, that's pretty cool to me. And like I said, there are a lot of students in the district that just don't have a niche. They're looking for a place to connect, and I think, that could be a creative way to be able to get them involved in.
And that's where our students are too. I mean, because at middle school, we do have a lot more sports opportunities, but not everybody plays sports. Right. And so these other groups, they give them a purpose. I mean, on Tuesday, they love coming to school because they have that club after school. And so in the makerspace, they had that on Monday and Wednesdays. And I mean, they were really thinking critically after school, and they were wanting to do that. Like, you didn't have to force these kids.
Right. Well, I mean, just like I said, I mean, just having like a Taylor Swift thing. I mean, I know Robbie Shepard is a big Taylor Swift. And so that would be his thing. But I mean, it's just cool to be able to like get those interests where they, it's not regular school stuff, and so it's still the learning part. But like I said, it's a pathway for them to be able to like connect and like, be interested in that. So I think it's really cool that the teachers, their creativeness they're coming up with. So very cool.
Second, what Chad said, but also from a teacher's perspective, sometimes it's very difficult. I mean, teaching today is different than it was
absolutely
28 years ago. You didn't have to build relationships in the 90s. Kids were still compliant. My point is, I'm thinking of this from the teacher's perspective. It's very difficult to build those relationships when you've got an entire yearly curriculum to get through. And this is a tremendous opportunity for teachers to have real contact time with kids and to build relationships they wouldn't otherwise have. So there's value on multiple fronts.
And I teach special education, so sometimes I don't get to see as many kids at times. And so that OMS Cares Club, I didn't teach one of those kids. And the relationships that they're coming to me now, and by golly, like, when are we going to go to the nursing home? When is this going to happen? And they're creating this plan, like seeing 12, 13-year-olds create a plan of reading to preschoolers and doing the, and they created all of that. They got into contact, like writing emails and all that, like seeing that, like, so it gives you a little bit of joy too. Like sometimes you have those really hard days, but then those were also those moments that you just got really happy about.
Well, I would also want to say, like, some districts are opting out of Career Ladder altogether, just, don't even want to offer that. So I think it's a great opportunity for Odessa to be able to provide that opportunity for the teachers, if anything, to make a little bit extra money too. I mean, but obviously to, like I said, connect, with the kids in a different way. So it's just.
Yeah, if I was a teacher, that's the way I'd look at it. Like, I make a little extra money. And then I would probably do like what you said with that one teacher with the professional development. She did that. She's like, man, that was really beneficial. Like, I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
So,
and we also, like, that was one thing you have to create a plan for this PD, that it's not, oh, I'm just going to go read a book. Like, you have to create a plan and be like, how am I going to teach it to the other teachers? So then the other staff members are benefiting from it as well.
Yeah. I know my wife, when she first started, Green Valley did Career Ladder, and, for a young family, I mean, it was part of our income, and so we kind of counted on that. And then when the state, discontinued it, it was kind of a hit. So, like I benefits, and I think being able to offer that opportunity financially, teachers is a good thing.
I wanted to ask, with some of these changes, we talked about some things were working last year that aren't going to work this year. How is that being received? And then even these hours changing and stuff, it doesn't appear like it's a huge change. It went, you said, from 45 to 50, but everyone's on board for that?
So we had a lot of discussions about that. So the good thing about the PDC board,
That's the committee. It's
Yes,
like
that's-
8 people. is
yes,
what I
the
read.
professional development committee. So when I started, that was totally different. Now it's a lot of career ladder, but it is beneficial that you have 2 reps from every single school, and all of us teach so many different things. And so when it was presented on how many hours, there was a lot of good discussion on, well, we think this might be too much, or well, we need to really raise the bar, and because this is volunteer, and we want like the high standards, you're supposed to be going above and beyond. And so 50 was really that compromise. So I think we all felt pretty good. And I know I did also discuss it because my sister works in Blue Springs, so I just asked her because my husband's in Great Valley, they don't do it, but then Blue Springs does, and she says they do 50 hours, like the 50%.
50%.
Yeah, and so then I'm like, okay, then it's comparable
Yeah.
to other districts
I just didn't
too.
know if there were certain teachers that kind of had something in place already, and they were like, man, I really like the other side of this, and I'd like to have that other, I think it's a few hours is what I read, depending
Yeah.
on how many hours you're supposed to meet, depending on what level
Yes,
you're at.
and like this year we maxed clubs and or just clubs. Tutoring's not maxed at all, but clubs were maxed at 45. So then we're raising that as well next year. Since it'd be 50, then you can get the 50 in those.
Going back to this, this year out of the 100, you say 100 finished it. Any idea how many started and were not able to complete?
It's really a handful, and because of DESI's, there's a lot of DESI guidance, which does make it cumbersome, but that's just, we have to play by the rules because they're funding 60% of this. So throughout the year, we're required to have checkpoints, and if somebody's not up to the pace where they're supposed to be, by DESI standards, we kind of have to move them off. So I would say there was a handful, probably less than 5, but just maybe they started out with intentions, but then schedules were difficult for them.
So were they allowed to go from stage 3 down to stage 2?
Yeah, if you said you were going stage 3, you could go like, okay, I only got here. But now if you said, I'm going for stage 1, and we told Desi that, and we told like the board, this is what, you can't go up. So you could go down, like when we had some teachers, like snow days kind of affected some of the teachers with tutoring. So there were a few, they were like, okay, I thought I was going to get this, now I have to go down to stage 2. And so, and he talked about the checkpoints, and a lot of the PDC reps in each building, I mean, they did a lot of behind the scenes too that people don't see, is like you're going through, and because you're an advocate for those teachers, so we're like, hey, how can we get you to that point? And so those teachers that didn't make it, they knew pretty close. We had some good discussions with them, like, how are you going to get it? And they're like, I don't think I am. So it wasn't like in April they're like, well, darn. So they saw it kind of coming early on.
They were fantastic to work with the teachers, and they tried their best to help teachers find activities to meet their goal. And the creativity created options that were eligible, and sometimes there was creativity that met things that weren't eligible according to DESI standards, and that was peers working with other peers to kind of explain that. So it really fit the people that had the ability to go above and beyond voluntary time.
So those teachers that sit on the PDC committee, are they getting hours for sitting on that committee?
Yes, because
They're
all
getting
of this
career
time
hours.
has to be outside of contract time for it to be eligible. So they would meet with these teachers outside of contract time, non-student hours, to serve in that capacity.
Or sending emails. Like, oh man, my husband told me when I said, get off your phone, I'm like, I gotta send this to this teacher. Like, I have
I'm
to
glad
do
that
so.
constitutes, because I know how much time it takes to
Yes.
sit on committees and stuff, so I'm glad that counts.
Like he's not sitting there on his phone anyway.
I know. Well, actually, he was getting the kid out of the fountain at that time, so.
Oh, all right.
We passed
I'm with
along
him on
some
that
of the
one.
things that are opening up with this new Senate bill that passed.
No, because I want to see.
But once we have that, we will be passing that on to teachers, so they're going to be.
Well, and we'll incorporate new language into this career ladder plan
as it comes
before it gets approved finally. This is just for first reading.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys working with this program. It's awesome. I mean, it's great for the teachers. It's good stuff. And the kids.
Alright, next item, the FY 25 budget.
Cat's coming back in.
For the preliminary FY 25 budget, in your board packet is a quick overview and a detailed line item of both revenue and expenditures for the preliminary budget for FY 25. This includes estimated revenues to date, but there are still some unknowns. We are currently waiting for the state budget to be approved, and signed, and then the preliminary budget includes projected revenues and expenditures. At this point, we are projecting a deficit budget, which aligns with what we have been discussing this spring. The official proposed FY 25 budget will be presented for approval at the regular June board meeting. Questions? So far.
Questions for Kat?
Thank you.
Moving on to action items. First one is rescinding the board policies.
Yeah, the following policies need to be rescinded because of just personnel changes. I-125P, I-126P, and I-140P.
Any questions related to these? Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
All approved? All in favor? Consent. Approval of board policies.
Yeah, and the same policies need to be reapproved to reflect the changes.
Seeking a motion? Approval of the new.
Second.
All in favor? Building student parent handbooks.
Yeah, these student parent handbooks were for 2024-25 are included in your packet for review and approval. And I have asked an administrator from each building to be here to answer any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions related to the handbooks?
I have a comment about cell phone usage in the high school. I'm glad that we're kind of moving in a direction where, during class time and instruction time, that we're not really allowing those to be out. So I think that's a wise move. I know when my daughter was in high school, I always get onto her because I had a serious issue, and she would talk about having her phone out and stuff. And I just don't think it's a good environment that's catering to learning. So I'm glad that we're going in that direction.
Did you all see it wasn't a hoax, it was actually a pretty well-known person who posted, a teacher actually asked the kids at the beginning of a class period to please turn on your phones, so I can hear them. And I think it was a class of 25 or 26 kids. And there were more than 600 tones, 600 notifications during that class. And they had tick marks for every, whether it was a text message or Insta.
Was this all day class or just like a high school
No,
class?
it was I believe it was a high school class, might have been middle school, I'm not sure. But there were 600 dings or notifications. Alerts, yeah. So just imagine, it's in your pocket or your purse or whatever, and it's on mute, but I know when my phone vibrates.
Those are all distractions.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Does the I know some teachers use them as like tools to will that I guess will that still be
Yeah,
louder?
we surveyed our staff. We had maybe 15%. I said they didn't want any restrictions on cell phones because they use them in class. And I told them, I said, you can still use them in class. The problem is when you tell them to put them up when they don't.
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Does middle school is
They don't allow
cell phones?
It is locked tight,
Okay.
Mr. Pepper. It's supposed to be. So as soon as they walk into the building, their phone should be off. So a lot of kids will just hit the screen button. I'm like, hey, you can turn your phone all the way off. So we have to kind of remind them to power them off. And they try to hide them in their binders and their bras and all of that fun stuff. But is supposed to be off from when they enter the building at 7:20 until they leave the building. So a lot of kids, as they're leaving their lockers, they're on them. They're trying to, access their phones right away. In the classroom, we don't use them for instruction. It's not a tool for anything. If you need a calculator, we'll provide a regular calculator for you.
Are we seeing any of that in the upper?
Recently, yes. But we have the same policy that they're in their backpacks and their lockers turned off. But more and more are trying to get sneaky.
Yeah.
There's just a handful, mostly 4th and 5th grade.
Does the middle school plan on using the e-hall pass that the high school uses?
Right now, we have not. I know Mr. Shepherd's talked a little bit about it with me before, but our plan right now is not. Right now, we have to implement kindergarten bathroom breaks. And so we're kind of going back to the elementary, Miss Russell. So students, there's been lots of vandalism in the bathrooms. And so we have to take them whole group. Right now, it's mainly our 8th grade students that are struggling with property destruction in the bathroom. The vape sensors, those work really well for us. But so right now, we're kind of implementing more of the whole group bathroom breaks mainly for 8th grade, and then we also have staff members that are stationed outside of the bathrooms during the main passing times, just to help monitor as kids are coming in and out of the bathrooms. So.
Okay, if there are no more comments, questions on that, we have a motion for the approval of the building student care handbooks.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Board of Education Board Manual.
Yeah, the Board of Education manual is presented for review and approval. The document has been updated to reflect the next school year, 2024-2025.
And you know that those, the only changes were.
Very minimal.
Yeah. Okay, there are questions on this one. Can I get a motion for approval?
Second.
All in favor? Passed. Lafayette County Children's Services Fund grant application.
Dr. Fagan.
So this information is not finalized yet, but asking for approval to proceed with the application once we get all the information. Been working with Logan and some vendors to add to our exterior security. We currently have door key fob access on 42 doors. This would add additional 53 doors, have the electronic access, be able to monitor that, as well as we're looking at position sensors, which would send alerts to administration if a door is propped open. So our SROs do check all exterior doors twice a day, but in the meantime, if they would get propped open, they could go unnoticed. So putting together pricing and numbers on that, and then once finalized, I would like to proceed with the application to the Lafayette County Children's Services Fund to assist with that funding.
Do you know what the funding would look like? I know with our SROs, it's a tiered, like 100%, 75% over 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
With this, since it's a one-time purchase.
So with equipment like this and a one-time, you can do it. It's not a tiered thing, but you can ask for 100%. You can ask for 80%, 50%. It's up to us as the applicant on how much of the bill we feel like we can afford, and then ask them for the rest. So it can vary.
And does it sometimes happen where they say, well, you asked for 80%, but we can do 70% and we'll approve it? Does that work that way?
I could see that happen. I'm not sure on their side on those policies, but I could.
Instead of just flat out denying you, asking too much.
I could see that being a conversation amongst their board. Yeah.
They have a 3-person committee that reviews all applications prior to going to the board. And that group, I was on that group, and I was on that board.
Oh, okay.
And that group can reach back out to the applicant and say, hey, can we do this? So there's flexibility there.
When we get to that point, we will bring it back to the board so you were aware of what we did do.
Make a motion, so moved.
Second. All in favor? Student meal prices for 2025.
So each year, districts, we do what's called a paid lunch equity tool that's provided by DESI. You put in a whole bunch of numbers and it's a large spreadsheet formula that tells you if you are charging enough for lunch. While our prices are still very low, we are in a spot where we need to increase them 10 cents for next year. So what you see reflected is in the graphic is a 10-cent increase for students and for adults, breakfast and lunch for next year.
I know, so I'm saying, can I eat lunch? What time is it?
Hey, chicken patty day is Wednesday.
I make a motion to approve the 24-25 meal prices as presented.
Good motion, I need a second. Any other questions, concerns with this? Need a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay, I think that's all our list of action items. Now I need a motion to conduct a closed executive session, including any record or vote at the next scheduled meeting pursuant to statutes contained in chapter 610.021 RSMO. Need a motion, please.
So, second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.